Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage today's guest speaker, Pete. He is an inventor and entrepreneur and startup guru / expert, and he's going to be sharing his perspective on pivot or die. Please, warm welcome for Pete. Crush it.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out today. So I don't know if I'm a startup expert, but I've definitely failed a lot, so that maybe makes me an expert. Who here would call themselves an entrepreneur? Bam. Woo, yeah, that's great. You guys are crazy. You all have visions and ideas, big ideas. You're gonna change the world. And man, you are definitely gonna do it. And not everyone else may see it yet, but you're gonna convince them. And I love entrepreneurs because we're optimistic, right? But sometimes that's not always a good thing, the optimism. And I'm gonna share a little story. It's about 3 years ago, and I was looking for a second round of funding for my company, and I visited a friend of mine, Jason Calacanis, who's an angel investor who will tell you every time you meet him that he was one of the first investors in Uber. So I'm starting out with a big name drop here right in the presentation. But anyways, it's an interesting story because I sat down and I wanted to share, get some honest, share with him what I was working on. And the first thing he said to me was, so do you want the blue pill or the red pill? And for those of you that don't know the reference, I'll play it for you.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to do. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
The suspense is killing me right now.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So that's what Jason Calacanis said to me. He goes, you want the blue pill or do you want the red pill? And I said, well, I didn't fly up to San Francisco to take the blue pill. So we're going to go down the rabbit hole here today a little bit and share some things that I learned through this journey building a company. A little bit about me. As you know, I just started to get kind of an introduction. Kind of a lean startup expert is how I would build myself, not a startup expert. So I used to run Lean LA, which was the biggest tech meetup several years ago. We had about 3,000 members and flew down people like Steve Blank, Eric Ries, Noah Kagan, a lot of great people to share knowledge. And that's the time when Lean Startup was just coming out. And so I had a chance to sit there with sort of some of these folks and learn it and help the community practice it. So I think that's where that experience is coming from. When I hosted these meetups and when I attend a lot of meetups, I really appreciate when people get up and on stage and share real information and they don't hold back. So that's what I want to do today. So it's just between us, some of this stuff. So I'd appreciate, I'll tell you when, maybe not to share stuff, but I want to get real with you guys. So this is a story about how I built a company, almost lost it, and hopefully going to recover it back again. Now this is about you guys. I surveyed you because I'm a lean startup guy. I want to know my audience. This was one of the questions, but there were some other ones that helped me shape the presentation, so thanks for filling out the survey if you saw the link. So the whole story starts with my passion for drones, and in 2012 I started building and flying drones. It was just a blast. You put these goggles on, if there's live cameras on these drones, you put these video goggles on, it's like you're on the drone. It's called FPV, or first person flying, first person view flying. And this is kind of what it's about. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit if I can. Sorry, the internet's a little slow here. Who's seen drone racing on ESPN or YouTube? Raise your hand. So it's kind of a cross between, let's see if we can get this to play again. It's very video gamey. But these drones are very capable. These are racing drones. These aren't the DJI drones you buy at Best Buy. So these are hand-built carbon fiber rigs with long-range antenna, long-range video systems on them. This is my buddy, Trappy, from Team Black Sheep. This is highly illegal, and he was not allowed back into the country for a while for this video, so don't try this at home. But he actually knew some people in Dubai that were able to kind of get him out of trouble for doing this. But It is possible to die at the Burj Khalifa with these things, and that's what you're going to see right now. It's funny because the Dubai government, who chased them out of the country, then used this footage when they put on a drone race the next year. Pretty addictive, right? So that's what I was into, but while I was into drones, I was also somehow at Microsoft. I don't know how that happened. Actually, I do know how that happened. I didn't wake up. I came back from Burning Man, and I got an email saying, "Did you hear the news about Nokia, where I was at the time?" I go, "No." I'm like, "Oh, you've been bought by Microsoft." Like, "Oh, okay." So there I am, hating Microsoft. Just did not enjoy it. I'm in LA. Microsoft is obviously up in Redmond, working on some cool stuff, though. So this HoloLens, this was 2 or 3 years before it came out, and I was working on envisioning projects, helping enterprise customers coming in, figuring out what to do with these glasses. But I'm sitting here, working on some cool stuff like this, but all I could think about is, let's do this with it. So that was the vision. I said, let's take this technology and do AR drone racing. So I made a prototype a few years ago. It was really freaking hard. And for the technically minded people out there, these are some of the reasons why it's really hard. But I did it and learned that it was way too early. So it would be too expensive and really hard to kind of pull off the parameters that we needed to have this experience. So the vision was real world, first person view flying mixed with video games. That was the vision. So I said, well, maybe there's meanwhile, I forgot to mention that the whole sport was blowing up at this time in 2016. So that was pretty cool. But maybe there's a different way I can come at this. There was definitely a problem around drone racing that I identified. It's really hard to organize these races. I personally experienced these problems. There's a lot of challenges. You turn on your drone, it could take down another drone if they're not on their properly spaced from a frequency perspective, finding safe places to fly, finding people to fly with. So I came up with a new plan. I said, if I can't do the AR stuff, I'll still enable gaming, and then as the technology develops, I'll have basically a grassroots drone racing league. And I'll time the market so that as the market is growing, I will own every drone racing pilot, and not own them, but I'll have a relationship with all the drone racing pilots and be able to deploy other interesting technologies and services. So went out to some friends and family, raised some money, and spent the next year building this. So a lot of customer development. I talked to hundreds of pilots, ran 20 events while we were in alpha, and just iterated with weekly releases. So we'd have a build, we'd go to an event that weekend, we'd test it with pilots, we'd roll the feedback in, we'd change the build, we would do it, iterate. Finally, we launched a beta. We ran the largest race in the country off of this software. That was a big success. We developed some race timing hardware. It was normally $800. We created it for $80. So that enabled all the drone racers around the world to empower them to actually run a race. They didn't need $800 equipment. So we did all that in our first 12 months. And it was a huge success. You're like, this story's great. This is a great story so far, isn't it? Yeah. It doesn't sound like a lot of meetups, but it's it's an early it's early days, right, for drone racing. But we definitely had all the market share, and we had an amazing brand, and the leagues were reaching out to us that were the ESPNs of the world, and so it was a pretty good position. But there was a problem. 2016, 2017, the market just flatlined. So all these broadcasts on ESPN, all these million-dollar tournaments, they started going away. People realized that it's not really super fun to watch drone racing. You go to a drone race, and it sounds like a bunch of mosquitoes buzzing around. No one had figured out, the pilots loved it, they have the goggles on. But the spectators are like, what the heck is going on? I don't know what's going on here. This couldn't be the NASCAR that everyone pretended that it would become. And then the prices of the drones didn't come down. And let's face it, it's hard to fly a drone. It's, the regulations are coming in. You have to find a safe place to fly where you're not going to kill babies and maim them with your propellers and your drones that are going 90 miles an hour. So, so this is where I found myself. I had spent most all the money I raised from my friends and from my family They trusted me with this. They trusted me to build a business. I thought I was doing a pretty good job, and I was on the road, but I had, to the point now where I had no money. Working 80 hours a day for the past 18 months, killing myself over this. Has anyone been in a situation like this, or is it just me? Yeah? Doing this presentation was like therapy. It was like, reflecting on all this. Huh? Literally. Maybe a little metaphorically. I don't know. Maybe not literally, figuratively. So this was my moment. What am I going to do? Let's take a break for a second. Who are these people? Raise your hand if you know who these people are. 1, 2, 3. Anyone? I'll give you a hint. Now, does that help? Okay, that's Steve Blank and Eric Ries. You guys, any entrepreneur in here that has never heard of them, I'll give you a second to take a picture of the presentation so you can Google them afterwards. Steve Blank is the godfather of customer development. He's one of the most influential startup leaders that you've never heard of. He started 8 high-tech startups, retired back in the 90s, and started teaching about some of these ideas I'm going to share with you. Eric Ries is a disciple of sorts. Took his incomprehensible Ulysses of a book and created some ideas called Lean Startup and made it really digestible and understandable. And created a New York Times bestseller about that, and a lot of the very influential in the tech business. Well, this is an extra credit. This is the inventor of lean manufacturing, what Steve Blank and Eric Ries based a lot of the lean startup on. So if you're a developer and you use a Kanban board or you have a Kanban meeting, you can thank this guy. But you came here today, maybe you should know what a pivot is, right? What is a pivot? So Eric Ries would call it this. So your business, you have a vision for your business, but maybe something doesn't exactly work out. Maybe you need to change some things. There's lots of pivots out there. Lots and lots of companies that have pivoted in one way or another. Some big, some small, some successful. Do you know what this company is? It's from the Wayback Machine. Try it now. I'm looking for a blank near blank. And you put your friend's email address, and it's better than email. It's better than sending an email. You fill out a form, and you get a recommendation back. What is this? No one? Yelp. Okay, so Yelp had $1 million in the bank. That's what they came up with before. They noticed that a lot of people were writing business reviews for fun, and they sort of doubled down on that and grew it to 17 million reviews and created the company that we know today. So that's a famous one. But Steve Blank would call it this. It's iterating on the business model, right? So if you subscribe to this way of thinking, then it kind of opens up maybe a process that you can use. So this is called the business model canvas. It was invented by Alexander Osterwalder. And basically, it's a way to draw your business. Okay, so entrepreneurs, again, go ahead, take a picture of this, write down his name. If you haven't seen this, it's a super helpful tool, especially if you're visual like me. So every company is, every startup is just a bunch of untested assumptions, right? So you write down your assumptions here, and then you go out into the real world and you test them, because one of the famous things that Steve Blank said is, you gotta get out of the building and talk to your customers. No business plan survives first contact with customers, ever. So you just have to understand that, and your goal is to get out of the building as soon as possible and talk to customers and learn from them and test your assumptions, right? Some assumptions may be risky. Some assumptions may not be as risky, right? You may know that you have a product that actually exists. You validated the problem, maybe you validated the solution, but you're not sure about the channel or how you're going to sell it. And there's lots of ways to go out and handle that. This was our first business model hypothesis. We went out and we did a bunch of tests. In the first year or first 6 months, a lot of this, 90% of this we validated for no money, right? That's kind of the beauty of Lean Startup is you don't have to go out and build a product to validate if your business is going to be a success. There's a lot that you can do from talking to customers, making prototypes, doing stuff on paper. We didn't have anywhere near an app for months before we were comfortable enough to spend a dime on engineering. So that's a whole nother subject. And if you guys are interested, maybe I could come back and talk about it, or go check out Eric Ries's book. But anyhow, so the original idea was this AR stuff, and so we sort of switched up a couple of things. We weren't sure about the revenue just yet. So what happened? We figured everything out, but as I said, there was no money. The market kind of just fell flat. We could not monetize this. There wasn't enough scale for us to monetize, and that's kind of where we were left. And I want to share kind of what happened after that. I know we're rolling a video. I just want to show you kind of what we're doing now. I think this is the part we're gonna edit out on the video. Okay, thanks. So this solves so many problems for us. Oh my God. Drones are hard to fly. Cars aren't. My 13-year-old daughter was on it, like instantly, boom, she got it. Especially with the goggles on, because there's no orientation issue. Old school old school RC cars, you drive it yourself and the steering's reversed. But when you're doing this, it's not a problem. You can do it anywhere. There's no one coming at you with regulations and telling you you're going to maim children. And it's really fun to watch. And it's not only fun to watch, it's fun to watch like on a live stream, or it's fun to watch the videos. Gaming's a huge market. Drone racing, let's face it, is not a huge market at all. So this was looking good. So what happened to our business model canvas? Going back to that. Some things are the same. Experience is kind of the same. Value proposition is kind of similar. Going after the video gamers ultimately. There's some new things here, right, that we didn't know about. We needed to figure out the new things, right? We need to validate these. All I had was a proof of concept at that point. I'm showing it to people, and they're like, yeah, that's awesome. But, is it a business? That's a business, right? There's a difference between a product and a business, right? That is the business. And that's the thing that needs to make money. So let's review some of the things Steve Blank taught us. I love, these are great quotes, right? And you probably heard some of these before. As a matter of fact, probably even a minute ago, because I mentioned them. So I don't know if we still want to go down the rabbit hole. How much more time do we have? Oh, wow. Okay. So I was flying through that. So we have time to do some different things.
3 minutes. We got Q&A.
I have 3 minutes. Number one is no fun. So, that's going to be, I don't know about that one. Which one of these interests you? And I'll try to make it short.
7 critical things.
7 critical things. That's because it's a headline-y kind of, right? That's... Let's see, is this what it is? What was the thing? What was it called again? 7 critical... Yeah, it's like a BuzzFeed. Okay, well, let me just start here. So how do you go out and learn? How do you get insights, right? These are some of the things that I typically do is like, I want to go out and learn the riskiest things first. If I know something's kind of covered, let's put that aside for a second, right? So start there and just get guerrilla about it. This isn't, don't spend $50,000. Heck, don't spend $1,000. You can do all this on the real cheap, right? And you're measuring the success about what you learned, right? I think a startup is really about validated learnings. That's your success metric in the beginning, right? So first of all, do friends like this? Yes, they did. But now let's go big, right? So I took this whole setup, or this setup was taken to an event. And so we could get a lot of people at once. It was taken to a big car event. So what did I want to learn, right? Is it just me and my friends? No. I mean, I'd see if it's just me or my friends. What type of people like this? Are people going to get sick? We had a whole bunch of questions. These were kind of important, right? And so we, while we're out there, let's see what else we can do. right? Maybe we can get some marketing insights. I always shoot video with these customer interviews, get testimonials, get people on camera, bring it back to your team, bring it to investors, bring it to partners. It's gold. It's really good to have, and you can use it in videos to share in lots of different ways. So we went out to this car event. We had this whole thing set up. We just sort of saw what was going on, and we did some exit interviews, and we learned a whole bunch of things. These are the questions, some of the questions that we asked. Please ask this question every time you're sharing a product with someone. Ask this question. It is awesome, right? Especially from a marketing perspective. You're getting the customer's interpretation of your product. You have your own interpretation. It's probably filled with buzzwords, and you're explaining it to people in kind of all different ways. You're not even sure how to explain it at first. Maybe you kind of get it. But how would they explain it to a friend really tells you the language that the consumer is using. And that's the language that you would reflect back, or the customer, not just a consumer. It could be a B2B product or what have you. So we learned a bunch from this event. All kinds of people were playing it. Awesome. No one had a problem doing this. They only had 3 minutes ago or 2 minutes ago, and they were right into the action. They didn't have to figure it out. Not a lot of people were throwing up, so that was check. And there's a whole bunch of people, and I would have never known this, right, if I hadn't done this test. There was a whole bunch of people around kind of watching this. They're like, what is going on here? And it kind of drew a crowd. So that was an important kind of anecdote. You've got the first person view experience, but then you've got this third experience for the spectators. Unlike the drone racing where they're like, oh, I hear mosquitoes buzzing around, they could get it, right? It was obvious what was going on. This is what they called it. Probably because of the headphones. We went deeper with, how much time do I have left? 2 minutes? We went deeper with some video gamers. We wanted to learn some things from them. I'm going to skip through this, I think. But this was another round of field testing. Okay, I'll share one thing before I wrap it up. How do you get these people to come in and give you this feedback? So we thought, okay, we have kind of a cool product. We'll just make a posting on Craigslist. We get 70 responses in one day, and I think after a couple of days, it had gone up to 200 or 300. They weren't just responses, they were form completes. I intentionally made them fill out a huge survey. Why? Because I wanted to get some information about them, and I wanted to see how badly they were interested in the experience. I wanted the early adopters. So the people that made it through, right, are the ones that you want to talk to, right? They're the ones that are passionate about this, and they're highly qualified. And I wanted to hear what those people wanted to say, would say about this. This guy was a character, right? He moved to LA to explore the weed business, he called it. He's from the East Coast. He's a super cool guy, though, But I spoke to some different people, and I got some great information. And then, that survey that I did, that Google posting, cost me all of $5, and I got some quick information out of it. Like how old are these people, and what are they interested in? And the customer development process was really, I don't have an assistant. Do you guys have an assistant? Do you guys have one? I don't have one. So I tried to make it really easy on myself. I sent them a link that would auto-schedule a 5-minute meeting with them. It would automatically go on my calendar. I would talk to them for 5 minutes. I'd pre-screen them to make sure that there's not some crazy person coming to my house. Then I would follow up and ask some questions over the phone. And before they saw the experience, and then they'd do the experience, and then I'd ask them some questions, after the experience, and through observations and through all the interview process, we learned a lot more. So, I'm gonna start to wrap it up here, but this is my hope, right? So this is where I'm at now, sort of the end of the story, but it's not the end at all. I've pivoted, and hopefully it'll be the next success story that you'll hear about. So yeah, thanks guys for listening.
Thanks, Pete. I think that's awesome. your pivot is actually really inspirational, because I think a lot of people come up with this idea of what they want and what they think their customers want, but if you don't test early enough, you may find yourself moving in a direction that is disconnected with actually market demand. If you test well enough, you can actually bend to the curve of the market demand, which is a little thing I've coined, unless someone else has said that before me. Anyway, really cool stuff, and really excited. We're hoping that this actually comes to fruition, because that actually is like real life Mario Kart. It seems infinitely more accessible to the majority of the population versus drone racing. Yes, so we're going to open up to questions and answers now. So John's going to walk around with the mic. If you have a question, raise your hand. We'll get answered for you. Please save storytelling and comments for offline. Thanks.
How do you monetize this so somebody doesn't come along and copy it and boom, there you go?
Hi. I'm starting a startup, and there's $1 billion company out there that's gonna, has way more money, that's smarter people, right? They're gonna come in and just blow me away. What am I gonna do about that? Is that kind of your question? So that's a question that, that a lot of entrepreneurs may encounter, or venture capitalists may ask you that, or what have you. I think it's a few different things. Number one, your core competencies need to be uniquely aligned, right? And maybe not the core competencies of your competitors, right? So a toy company may look at this, well, they actually did, and they go, oh, wow, that's awesome. But do they have expertise in computer vision? Do they have experience in video gaming? Have they brought an innovative product to market? Toy companies I've spoken with take 18 to 24 months to even get to a green light process, right? And they're selling plastic. Basically is what they're doing. They're selling plastic to toy stores. And so I don't mean to, it's not an insult to toy companies, but I'm just exaggerating to say that as a startup, you can try to find the core competencies and you can try to outmaneuver them with speed and execution. And by the way, my life depends on it. Do you think someone else's life depends on it? They're going into work at a big company every day, but this is to, keep my kids in school.
He said he's worried about another startup.
Oh, another startup.
Yeah.
There could be someone here taking notes, but I have to, yeah, I mean, go for it. I think it's not easy, so competition is good.
Great presentation, thank you. Is there a way to effectively survey your market without building a prototype first?
So I'm going to rephrase that in a biased way. I'm going to say, are you asking me if I should bring a product to market without talking to customers? No, what's your question?
Can you talk to them before you...
Oh, absolutely, before a prototype.
Like, can you effectively get...
Yes. Customer development interviews are gold. You can do it. You can learn more. You can talk to 5 people and invalidate an entire business idea in a day. I've done it. You can just iterate. You can just come up with a business idea, draw that chart, come up with some ideas, talk to some prospective customers, try to validate the problem to see if it even exists, if it's painful for them. Is it truly painful for them? What's their solution today? What does your solution look like? Is it solving that pain in a way that's much greater than what they're already doing today? I mean, they could be doing some very hackish thing that works just fine, and your product or service may not really be incrementally that much better for them. You can learn all that through interviews, and you should.
Hi, really great presentation. My question's a 2-part question. The first part is, do you have a co-founder or do you work with somebody else, primarily like a CTO or something? And then the second part is, with the iteration process in Lean Startup, do you think it makes a big difference if you've got you looking at the customer feedback versus you with the whole bunch of people? Because there are a lot of us that want to apply this, but maybe we only have 1 or 2 people that we're working with. So I'm wondering how many people you think should look at the feedback that you're getting and decide from there.
So how many people on the team should be exposed to the customer feedback that you're getting? And then what's my situation with co-founders and stuff? So right now I don't have a co-founder. I'm looking for one. I'm looking for a technical co-founder, someone that knows software, machine vision, this stuff behind me. Yeah, I would welcome that for sure. It wasn't until recently I knew exactly what the right mix is. We're a hardware company, we're a software company. Who are some of the key people I need in the leadership team? Your other question is, the information sharing, I mean, first of all, as a CEO and entrepreneur, you need to be the person talking to the customers. Like, you do not delegate that, right, at all. Do not. And then if you have other people in the team, have them go out and do some customer development interviews too. Or at least summarize it and share it with them and debrief.
Over here.
So I saw that you used Craigslist and Google Forms as sort of a channel to get out there.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just curious, as far as channels go to reach these customers in the initial stages, is there a general whereabouts for that?
For who? Me? You?
Sort of, I guess, one that can blanket across. Like,
yeah, it depends on what you're doing, right? Evidently, there's people reading Craigslist looking for video gaming opportunities. You know, I was kind of shocked. I'm like, who reads Craigslist and responds to these ads? Well, that guy did, and a whole bunch of other people. I wasn't sure how that successful that was going to be. It was amazing, you know, hugely successful. For $20, I did 4 more markets, and I got 500 signups. I mean, that's actually like lead gen I could do to sell the product. Like, that's a legitimate marketing channel. Like, and the conversion on rate is ridiculous. Like, and by the way, those surveys cost, you do the math, and it's like 10 or 20 cents per person to get a survey. These other companies will charge $5, $10 for a panel to be delivered to you. So you just have to get creative and just think about your product and what you're doing and where you'd find those people and how to get in touch with them. It could mean going, you know, going to a university, going to a school, wherever those people exist and live, you know, just get creative, get really creative with how to reach them.
Got a question here. There was a question earlier about competition. You started with a drone FPV racing concept, and now you've pivoted to a car racing. Along the way, have you developed any IP that would kind of help you, maintain your?
Yeah, we have 3 patents on the core technology pending, and yeah, so that the advice that was given to me was identify 3 choke points in your tech stack that would prevent other people from coming in and potentially, taking market away. So that's the other question, the answer to that question. But I mean, if you are interested in building this, just come work with me instead. Talk to me after.
Another question. It seems like esports is gaining a lot in popularity.
Yeah.
How would you compare this to that? Is it very similar, or and also to Twitch? There's a lot. It seems like there's
Totally.
a lot of fan base watching people play.
It's huge, right?
Yeah.
People love esports because, from an investor standpoint, because it's like free marketing, right? People are posting videos of your product online using it. It's getting the word out about it, plus all the other things that hang off of esports. So. That was one of my hypotheses, right? Is there an esports play here? So to validate that, I contacted all the professionals I know in esports, people that own, I spoke with a friend of mine that's at Caffeine, which is a new Twitch competitor. I spoke with people that are in the esports industries that own esports teams. So I actually did a lot of market research around that, and I learned that don't walk into a room with esports people and call this an esport. You will lose all credibility. I would have never realized that. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? He says, it's not an esport, because you're talking about people affecting the game with spectator interaction and stuff, and an esport is athletes going against other athletes, right? And the game has to be the same. Like NBA 2K is 5-on-5. It's the same. It's a level playing field. So if your game mechanic won't work, call it competitive sports. But it will be on, hopefully it will be on live streaming and that kind of thing. I think that's a key component of it.
Over here, question.
So. Hey, Pete. You talked about pivoting or dying, and I think that one of the things that I think makes that tough is how do you know that it's time? Entrepreneurs are at least if you're looking out there and reading the blogs and all that. There's a lot of advice about being flexible, but also being rigid. So what was that balance for you, and what kind of what kind of advice could you give the guys out here?
Find Morpheus. Someone that'll give you the red pill. Seriously, talk to someone who's going to give you some honest feedback. Don't talk to people that are going to tell you what you want to hear. Be honest with yourself. Look at the data. But most importantly, share your situation with someone that you trust or know, and someone that's impartial. See what they think of it. see what's missing in the business and what's working and what's not working if you can overcome it. So it's just about being honest with yourself.
Just a quick follow-up. So you moved on to this new thing, but do you think that given time, the drone racing thing will come back? What has to change to make that a successful business?
I didn't see that. I mean, investors didn't see it, certainly. I tried to raise more money, and they're just like, this isn't like a VC scale business. I kept on hearing this. This isn't a VC scale business. Plus, they had already made their drone investments. Everyone had their one drone investment in their portfolio, and they didn't really want another drone investment. They weren't sure. They wanted to see how the drone business played out. In that case, the VCs were right. I mean, there's even industrial drone companies that are folding. Bigways, another company, Airware, I think it's called, 120 million VC just folded. But yeah, I cited some of the reasons why I don't think the drone racing business is ready right now. I think cost of entry is too high. It's hard to find safe places to fly. There's even more, there's regulations coming out now, even more. That's going to restrict it even more. So personally, I think for drone racing to work, there needs to be a lot of technological advances. I don't know, I think it's going to be a niche for a while.
What about your current concept with the car racing? Has there been more investor interest in that?
I'll let you know next month when I take it out.
I have a question. With your current concept, do you plan on integrating augmented reality? Because you remember, like with Mario Kart, you drive around the racetrack, you pick up power-ups along the way. Have you thought about something like that, integrating it so that you can actually earn the weapons of mass destruction that you're using against your friends?
Yeah, that would be a great gameplay mechanic. There's one, we're focused, we sort of are the conceptually like, oh yeah, real world Mario Kart, people get that. So that's definitely all the tools we have to work with is, real world interaction. So I could go through the oil slick and the actual car spins out. So anything you could think of with the game, we could try to apply it. So that sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah, awesome. We have time for, I think, 1 or 2 more questions. Anyone? No? Okay, we're good. We'll wrap up on that. Thank you so much, guys, for the questions.
Thanks, everybody. I'll stick around for a little bit.
Yeah.